All of these evil men with lust on the brain. The World According to Garp, released in 1982 and is directed by George Roy Hill, who's also directed such films like The Sting, Slapshot, A Little Romance, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And this film is starring a young and fit Robin Williams, Mary Beth Hurt, Glenn Close, and John Lithgow. Apparently this is Glenn Close's feature film debut, so that's interesting. That's where she got started. And the reason why we're talking about The World According to Garp today is because it was a PayPal recommendation and donation from a longtime contributor and supporter of this channel, Dr. Camp. Once again, you're here, and you donate, and you support, and I appreciate. Thank you very much. If anyone else out there also wants to be like Dr. Camp and help contribute and support me on this channel, you can select the QR code that is in the bottom left corner of your screen right now. Send over your donation of $5 or more, and if you have a movie recommendation, attach it with it, and if I have access to it, I will watch it, review it, and give you a little shout out, just like what I did with Dr. Camp. Jenny Fields is wanting a child of her own, but doesn't want to be locked down to a marriage to a man. So she rapes an immobilized soldier when she was a nurse, and later gives birth to her son that she names Garp, because that's the name of the soldier who was paralyzed and couldn't really say anything, and that she raped. She named the kid after said soldier. But it's fine. It's all fine, I guess, in this movie. And the film follows Garp through his entire life of being a young infant, the sparking of his imagination, and his discovery of his lust for women. And as he tries to develop the skills to become a writer, his mother also tries her hand in the whole writing game, and publishes a book that touches the hearts of many feminist activists in the country. So after that, the film follows Garp struggling with his jealousy towards his mother, because his mother, even though it's not as great of writing as his, supposedly, because hers struck a nerve with a voice in this country that wasn't being heard in media and in politics and in anything really, because it struck more of a chord with that, her stuff sells out and her book is plastered all over these bookstores. And then here's Garp, who feels like he has a good sense of how to write, but no one buys his stuff. And it just follows the rest of his life, being jealous of his mother and being angry with really just everyone in his life, I think. Well, I guess not angry all the time. He just loves taking moments to just watch his kids play and just loves watching his kids. He just loves being a family man. He loves having a wife. He loves having kids. He just loves living. It's very confusing. It switches from jealousy and hatred to just flat out blanket love towards just life in general. And after this movie was done, I kind of just sat there and thought, what was the point of this? There was really nothing said about it. The movie doesn't really have a message at all. Yes, there are feminist views in this film that are very character-centric, but it's not like the overall arching idea of this entire story. The movie really doesn't have a message, and I know this is based on a book, but just researching a little bit on that book, many people are saying that that book doesn't have a message behind it too. And when I hear that, I just go, what's the point of watching the movie then? The reason why we have stories, the reason why we have books, the reason why we tell gossip, the reason why we have TV shows and we have movies is to have a message, to have a purpose behind telling a story. And if you're one of those people who's like, well, this is just about life, life doesn't really have a purpose. It really doesn't have a meaning, or at least it doesn't have to. So maybe that's what this movie's talking about, Caleb. Gosh, you're such a terrible movie reviewer. For those of you people who have that thought in your brain right now, stop, because you're right. In real life, not everything has a purpose. Not everything has a meaning. But if we're going to take that idea and that concept and put it into a film, then I think we need to have a film about someone in real life, like an actual real life character. When we create a fictional story and then we don't have a purpose or a meaning behind it, that just tells me that the writer is frickin' lazy. I just see the writer in their room typing along their story and thinking like, well, there's no real purpose or meaning in life, so why should I work that hard to put one into my movie? It's lazy and it's bullshit, and it really angered me after watching this film all the way through. And then there's this whole subplot of this Ellen Jamesian group that stays at the estate of Jenny Fields, who's looking after all of these women who have been harmed by the men in their lives. These Ellen Jamesians have cut out their tongue. They've self-mutilated themselves in support of this fictional young girl who was assaulted and raped and had her tongue cut out with the men who raped and assaulted her when she was a little kid. It's like the movie was trying to get me to get behind them, but I was feeling myself pulled more towards how Garp was feeling about it, like they're hurting themselves. Like, don't do that. Yes, support them in any way you can, but what is cutting your tongue out and self-harming yourself? How is that helping Ellen James get over her assault from when she was a kid? And then supposedly Ellen James sends a letter to this activist group to say, stop doing that. I don't want you to cut out your tongues. I don't want you to hurt yourself. Please stop. And then they ignore her. But it felt like the movie kept trying to get you to get behind what they were doing because they have the right to do it, which, yeah, you technically do. It's your body. You can do whatever you want with it. This is the only thing that you own. I understand. But you're not helping the cause with you cutting out your tongue. Like, how is that going to help what already happened to her who is trying to move on? I don't know. There's a subplot that it was ticking me off the more it went on. And the relationship between Jenny Fields and Garp, there are moments where I really loved the relationship, and then there are moments where I found Jenny Fields being extremely overbearing or condescending to Garp, because Garp is just growing up. He's learning. He's discovering things about himself, and she's being so condescending to him, or putting him in a corner somewhere so that he doesn't have the opportunity to grow and to figure out what he wants to do with his life. I don't know. It felt like this film was trying to have a message. Again, like, I didn't get one. I didn't get an overarching one. It felt like it was really trying to say something. What that something is, I honestly don't know, because then we move into a domestic situation with Garp and his wife was cheating on him, like, constantly, and something happens to where there is a tragedy in the family. It just felt like there were a whole bunch of random things and random ideas that the screenwriter had for this film, and then they just copy and pasted and then took little scotch tape and just taped it all together and said, yep, that's a film, that's a life, that's the life according to Garp. I don't know, this film just didn't hit with me. I recognize that there were good performances. I think Glenn Close has a great debut and a great performance in here. Even though I didn't really like her character that much, I still feel that Glenn Close was an amazing performance. John Lithgow, who plays a transsexual in this film, I thought he performed this character, like, truthfully and honestly and very respectful of people going through transitions like this. He's not a comedy character. He played it as an actual person, which is what transsexual is. A transsexual is an actual real-life person. So I loved it. I love his performance. It was my favorite of the entire movie. And Robin Williams, is just great seeing him on screen. This is definitely the most fit I've ever seen him, because Garp is a wrestler in his younger years, so you actually see Robin Williams with, like, deltoids and like, his biceps are a little buff. I'm like, oh, okay. You were like buff and fit once. Usually I'm just used to you and your dad bod stuff, like in Mrs. Doubtfire and everything, but in your younger years, gosh, you were a fit little dude. It's his story, and I think he's okay. This is not one of the best and most memorable performances of Robin Williams. I feel like he's very, like, reserved and tame in this movie, but I think that's also playing into the overall aesthetic that all of us had towards Robin Williams. Whenever we see Robin Williams on screen, we expect him to make us laugh, and when he doesn't, we get disappointed. And I feel like it's these moments where he was trying to be real and trying to be serious that we took for granted as an audience watching this guy perform. The World According to Garp it's interesting in some points, but then it just becomes a drag. And you are left wondering, like, what's the point of this? I felt like I wasted 2 hours and 16 minutes of my life. There's nothing to this. Plus, a lot of the subplots I just felt uncomfortable with, or that I disagreed with, and I felt like they were going about them the wrong way. And I'm not going to get into any more detail about that, because I feel like a guy talking about feminism is not appropriate, or I lose all credibility when talking about it, so I'm going to stop talking about it right there. I'm going to give The World According to Garp 2.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I found that if you have a goal, that you might not reach it. But if you don't have one, then you are never disappointed. And I gotta tell you, it feels phenomenal.
So guys, if you've seen The World According to Garp, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across because of this video, then comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell so you'll know the next time I'm releasing next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.